Here on this channel and around these parts, you know that we love Square Enix. Square Enix is one of the brands, I would say, in all of media that has really shaped who I am as a creator and my tastes and the things I like. But in all great relationships and mentorships and whatever you want to call it, sometimes we have to call a spade, and today I feel like it's one of those times. Looking at the Tokyo Game Show lineup coming up for the end of September, I can't help but think to myself that Square Enix might be in a little bit of trouble. Not deep trouble, but if you look at the state of their flagship franchise, Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga, arguably has been carrying that company, and those numbers have not been what they thought they were going to be. We can get into the reasons why that is, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about the fact that Square Enix doesn't seem to have dug themselves out of that hole. Square Enix wants to be a AAA producer. While the HD 2D remakes and things they're doing, I love, it absolutely speaks to me, it's not going to bring them the revenue and the business and the notoriety that that company really wants. So it kind of feels like they're just doing it because they feel like they have to do it. Which, again, I'm fine with, because I don't dislike that business model. Sometimes you get painted into a corner and you have to do what you got to do to get by. All Square has to start doing is what Capcom has been doing for the last 10 years. Listen to the fans. You just gotta listen to the fans. My example being this. This is Capcom's showcase list for Tokyo Game Show 2025. Resident Evil Requiem, more of that. Pragmata, which looks like it's going to be a sleeper hit. Onimusha: The Way of the Sword looks like an amazing reboot of Onimusha, which is already great. You got your Monster Hunter stuff, and then you got your mainstay Street Fighter stuff, and you've got Resident Evil Survival Unit, Biohazard Survival Unit. This is some of what they're going to show. I'm sure they're going to show some more things, maybe have a few surprises sprinkled in, maybe not. But why I say Capcom has been listening to their fans, that is not shown here. The Resident Evil remakes that they have been putting out, we'll scratch 3 for now. I did a stream last night on exactly the things that have been coming out and the things that I've heard about Code Veronica remake, and it's mind-blowing. They are listening to their fans. They are building on top of the successes of their previous remakes, and they're incorporating the lessons they've learned on those by listening to the fans and the things they've learned by working on the games into the big games they're putting out now. On the other side of that coin, we've got Square Enix, who continues to just do business as usual. Keep trying to go through a door in a wall that isn't there. It's just a wall until they find a door. We're coming up on the last part of Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga, Part 3. That's it. It has been probably their most overall successful project of the last few years. Now, I'm not a Kingdom Hearts fan. Kingdom Hearts is huge. I'm not saying it's not. But they need to get on the ball with that Part 4. And I'm hoping, for the company's sake, that Part 4 is coming soon after the remake saga is finished. My hunch is they're wanting to get through the remake stuff, and once they're on the other side of that, then we're going to start seeing a lot of other stuff. I'm hoping Final Fantasy 17 is in development. I'm hoping that the Final Fantasy IX remake is not scrapped. I'm hoping that all these other rumored games are actually happening and they're just waiting to push through Remake Saga. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're just jumping to conclusions on Square Enix sinking. But I don't know. I don't know, because they are big on quarterly numbers. Their merchandise keeps them floating. They have been lucky enough to have a fan base that will buy every piece of merchandise that comes out. The body pillow and plushie division is thriving at Square Enix. and the $150 action figures. But at some point, you got to put out banger games. You're a game company who's founded on games. You got to put out banger games, and they got to get back on board with that. So are they in a little bit of trouble? I would say on the surface right now, yes, they are. Square Enix's Tokyo Game Show lineup is Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, Final Fantasy Tactics Ivalice Chronicles, and the HD 2D version of Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. Now, Final Fantasy Tactics is one of my favorite games of all time. This is one of my most anticipated games to play for the year. But it's not the stuff that they want to be known for making. It's just not. They want to be known as a big AAA publisher. But they have got to start making peace with the fact that they are a niche audience. We are a niche audience. The JRPG kind of crowd. It's never going to do numbers that stuff like Call of Duty and Black Ops and things like that do. It's just never going to do those numbers. Because Square Enix games are not intended to be a game that you come home from work, you throw on for 30 minutes to an hour, you play a couple of matches, you turn it off, and then you watch whatever's in your Netflix queue. That's not what Square Enix games are, and that's why those other games appeal to such huge audiences. Because you can do that with those. That's not what these are, and that's not what these should be. You should be invested for a few hours at a time, at least, to play a Square Enix game, and that lies the problem. A lot of the world now are too busy to sit down and play a long game, and to carve out 2, 3, 4, even 5 to even 8 hours of your day to play through a game. So I think Square Enix right now is really struggling to try to find what their gaming identity might be. I don't ever want them to stop making the games they're making. I don't. But as the world changes and gets busier, I think it's kind of becoming harder for people to play their games. And I think what we're starting to see is people being like, I don't have time to play a Square Enix game. I don't have time to play one of these. I don't have time to play one of these. And their sales going down and down because they're not moving the units, because their games do take a time commitment. And I love that their games take a time commitment. But it sucks that this is kind of where we're at. I really hope that they figure it out. I do. I want Square Enix to thrive. I want them to be the top publisher in the world. Because, I don't count Rockstar, because Grand Theft Auto 6 is another one of those games. You can come home from work, you can play it for an hour, and then you can throw on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus and watch whatever's in your queue. Plug it in, play it for an hour, turn your brain off, and then jump into whatever else you're doing. Square Enix, they make games that make you think about the narrative, make you think about what you got to do next. Of course, every game you got to think about what you're doing, but you got to think about the narrative. You have to put time into it. You don't want to just play for an hour, because that's getting through maybe a story segment and a few random encounters out in the world while you're trying to get to the next area. That's not enough. You gotta play that thing for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. To really get your time in. That's why a lot of people that stream Square Enix games, they do it late at night when the day is done, when the day is over, so you can get through. That's why I do it anyway, and a lot of the other streamers I know do that. I hope they figure it out. I do. It's been a few years. Final Fantasy 15, while I liked Final Fantasy 15, it was lacking. That game was lacking because they were trying to make a game that would sell for a Western audience. It didn't feel like Final Fantasy 15. It felt like they were trying to make a game that you could play for an hour and put it down. Final Fantasy 16 took a step in the right direction as far as getting back to Final Fantasy, but that game was still lacking. It didn't live up to the standard. I liked 16, but it lost part of the fan base. 15 lost a part of the fan base. 16 lost some sales, lost some part of the fan base. In the 7 remake stuff, you could argue that they're trying to make it more palatable for people who want to play short stints or whatever, but there are things about that people didn't like. I love the remake saga. I like what they're doing with it once I got comfortable with the changes they were making, but A lot of people didn't get comfortable with those changes, and that's fine. That's your opinion, that's your take, and you are absolutely entitled to that. I hope they figure it out. Whatever Final Fantasy 17 is, I hope they figure out Final Fantasy. That is their flagship. They have lots of other titles that are great. Kingdom Hearts is not their flagship. Dragon Quest is not their flagship. Final Fantasy is their flagship. That is their flagship franchise. And I hope they figure it out, because I don't want the flagship to sink. That's it. So, do I think Square Enix can get to the point where they're doing Capcom numbers? No, I don't. Because Capcom has so many games now that they have tapped into that, play for a little bit after work, and then turn it off and watch whatever you need to watch before you go to bed. They've tapped into that market that I just don't know that Square Enix will ever be able to tap into. But can they recover? And you don't have to do numbers like Capcom. You don't have to do numbers like Call of Duty. You don't have to do those numbers to be successful. Can they get back to the heights they once enjoyed? Absolutely. Absolutely. We're all waiting for them to. We're all waiting for them to get there. And we've been waiting for a long time. So, but currently, are they in a little bit of trouble? It looks like they might be. But does that mean they are? No, it doesn't mean they are. It just means that it's another guy on the internet speculating. That's it. Another guy who loves their games and has them dressed all over his shelf back here and in his art books, and he just hopes that they get back to what they used to be. That's it. So, you all have a great day. Be safe, be good to each other, keep rocking, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.